Friday.
Happy Friday.
Now we're
Happy
live.
Friday. We are live. We are live.
It's me. I realized I'm probably the one jumping the gun because the countdown clock ends and I'm like, we're going. And then you wait till it says you are live.
Yes. Well, I don't see a countdown. I don't know why.
Oh, that's right. So all you see is the you are live.
I just see live. So yeah. I'm ready.
That's
all right.
Hi, everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
What a week.
Yeah.
What a week.
What a week. Lots going on. So
lots going on. And we're ready for a weekend. But first, we shall talk.
So let's talk because there was a lot going on this week.
Always.
As always.
I mean, really, we live in a very exciting time in this industry because there's always something to talk about, especially now. So, but let's start, with these two kind of,
One quick thing on that.
Oh yeah, what?
So, and here's a hint for everybody. So, I spent this week doing all of my stuff for Grit.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. So, guys, when this comes out, I'm telling you, this is, if there has ever been a pivotal report that you must read, it is this one. So, talk about things happening. So I'll just leave it there. There's more coming, but boy,
and head to the website, sign up for the Grit Forum.
Yes.
If you take in information that way, that's on June 10th. If you take in information that way, join us for the forum. If you're a reader and you take information that way, be watching for it. So
Yep. Lots happening. All right, now let's talk about the more.
It's easy for me to pretend that Grit isn't happening because it's just such a beast of a project around here, especially right now. So something had come up this week, and it was like in between North America wrapping up and Europe on the horizon, and then Grit in between. What were we thinking? Anyway,
we're gluttons for punishment. We always have.
Apparently.
Right. So I want to talk about this, the Insights Association and government.
The thing I like about this story, so and I'm going to let you talk about it more, of course, but I love to know what the association, like the associations, they put on events. Yeah. We do our events and we have preferences for ours over theirs, obviously. But the work that they do, this is to me where they really make a huge difference in our world. So I'd love to shout out when the Insights Association or ESMA or any of the other associations are doing the big work, the key regulatory work. And anyway, this is one example of that. So that's why I really want to make sure people are aware of what the Insights Association is doing here. So you want to talk a little bit more about it? Like, it's really just they're pressing the U.S. government to modernize procedures, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think I have some insight into some of that over the years doing healthcare research, things like that. I mean, so there's like this regulatory framework that they put in place in the 90s. But it also basically captures how research was done in the 90s. And they're pushing to say, look, yes, RDD telephone sampling.
Yeah.
Sure, we could still say it's the gold standard, maybe from a scientific standpoint, but it ain't practical. And it's not cheap. And
it's I think the press release about it also is it's hindering innovation.
Yes.
When we have all this kind of red tape and things take a long time, well, you're certainly not allowing for the type of agility that innovation requires. And at the same time, we really want to be that way in this country, right? We want to eliminate this red tape and move forward with things. So hats off to, Insights Association. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. They're driving much needed change. And Ford set everything else aside, right? Some an administration that seems to be leaning into innovation and AI. Like, well, okay, here's a really good example of how that needs to apply. So
for real.
Some good stuff.
And this next one, I think this is probably on. You get a lot of the advertising bureau information, but so the Interactive Advertising Bureau and the Media Rating Council released new attention measurement guidelines. This is interesting, and this one, correct me if I'm wrong. They want public comment on them. They want to standardize things, but really it's just that there's too many different types of measurements. So it's hard to compare apples to apples. Is how I interpreted this story. Is that your impression too?
Yes, absolutely. And there's like an advertising component of that, of what really is attention if you are exposed to an ad for 20 seconds. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Although some would say it's 5, some would say it's 30. Who right, to your point, lots of stuff just related to that of what counts as exposure, but this focus more on, okay, but exposure is one thing, attention is the other, which gets into, non-conscious measurement and, there's lots of solutions now being deployed to understand actual attention, eye tracking, obvious one, those type of things. So, they need to do that work. ARF is part of this in the background. So hats off to the Advertising Research Foundation. These things are important.
So pretty cool. Good work.
Yep.
So before we get into the lengthy list of new product launches, because we predicted that there would be in these months like so many new product launches. It figures out what's their AI move. Now we've got all these AI product launches, but first, I don't know if because we Forsta is such a solid partner of ours. What do you know about this acquisition of InMoment, expanding their AI-powered CX capabilities?
Only what was in the press release. Actually, I have to admit something. I forgot the press Ganey owned Forsta. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't think about it. So it was a good reminder of, yes, there's a much larger organization. And Press Ganey, has done lots of CX, and they're very large consulting, and they do all types of stuff. The own Forsta, the focus on data collection, and now expanding InMoment, which is more qualitative, has broader applications around CX, but also UX, and there's lots of capabilities around all of that to expand that. So they continue to, effectively build out a competitor to Qualtrics.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, all right. I feel like, Qualtrics is the one to beat here. We all know it. We all see it coming. And go. I don't want to call anybody an underdog, because in this case, it's not an underdog. It's just, like you're going up against a behemoth.
What's interesting, thinking about, because I've been in Grit World all week, this tension between technology and service isn't resolving, right? There is still, even with everything that's happening with AI and yada yada yada, obviously tech is not just winning, tech is dominating, but service is still required. So it is interesting in this particular configuration of Press Ganey, is a large, there is a consultancy as well as lots of different capabilities that are specialized. Building that tech forward, maybe even tech first approach, but still having that capability, which is a little bit different than, let's say, a Qualtrics, that they have service, but they don't talk about it much, right? They'd rather lean into the tech. So this is dynamic. It's just an interesting dynamic of business models that, here's an example, it's going to continue to play out.
And they talk about, in this press release, they talk about their healthcare, the healthcare and employee, which of course, those are the things that Qualtrics talks about frequently at their event, is like their employee experience, their healthcare experience. And so good luck with the merger or the acquisition, and we'll keep watching.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, we're going to move into the more fun.
What's so funny? I mean, certainly when we talk about these meta glasses, I really want to go there for a minute and start with that, because when Lenny and I say more fun, we're talking about, okay, news aside, let's talk about tech, which I never would have predicted that would have been, the exciting part of our jobs. Maybe you could, but anyway. So last week, I was at this Yale Insights On conference, and there was a speaker from Meta there, and she was wearing glasses when she was delivering her talk, and she was talking quite a bit about the research that went into the Meta glasses, and so I was already sort of primed to be listening to that because of our conversations about the Meta glasses and all that. But and then at the end, she said, "Can I take your picture?" And everybody in the audience kind of froze for a minute, and then she said, "Meta, take a picture," and then it happened. We're like, okay, I don't know how I feel about that. But then I read these super sensing, literally they're calling them super sensing capabilities for facial recognition. And I thought to myself, okay, because apparently, and I have to get a pair. I literally have to get a pair, because I liked the take a picture thing. Just saying it out loud and having it happen was really cool to me. Seeing how easy it was to take a photograph when you're looking at something, because it's whatever you're looking at is what's photographed. Anyway, it was cool. But then this other idea of facial recognition, where I just kept thinking, so if I'm out somewhere and I'm like, oh shoot, I know this person, but I don't know them, and maybe my glasses are going to tell me like who this person is. So I started thinking about my personal use of this feature, and then I started to think about everything else, and I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, well, all the ethical stuff. I mean, Tim, I don't know if you're listening, but is a fellow glass hole from back in the day. I mean, that was the beginning of thinking about those implications of the two pieces. Like, wow, this is really cool in many ways. There's no doubt. To your point, I could think of 101 practical applications.
101, yeah.
But there's the whole Big Brother component of it as well, and which includes just ethical, personal, all those things that are inescapable, and we have to get a handle on it, because it's
well, and also it's not like I imagine it's you're out in public, right? So, or you're in a public place. I have no idea if I'm walking down the streets of New York City who might be wearing meta glasses at this point. I have no idea. It's just happening.
Absolutely.
They certainly don't have to stop everybody and say there's meta glasses in the environment. Like, it's the strangest thing to think about it in this context. Anyway, like I said, they were really sharp looking. I think that's only going to improve. They were very deliberate in their partnership with Ray-Ban. She talked quite a bit about that. Like, they had to find a brand that was going to have enormous appeal. And so the partnership was very deliberate, and all of the research going into it's been deliberate. But I don't know, it's this super sensing capability. So the idea is that, it is going to be sensing whatever the wearer is looking at. And AI will be a part of that. And then you can have this sort of live AI happening. So you are literally interacting with AI as you're looking at things. Anyway, it's very cool. And I think that the appeal went up tenfold when I saw them, and I saw her using them the way that she was using them. But now I keep thinking about shop-alongs, and it's not a big expense for any company out there to just be like, here, please go purchase just the act of somebody shopping on the shelf with those glasses on. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
The eye tracking possibilities from a different point of view is really cool. It's just, it's so seamless without having to wear all the, it's so cool.
Right. But and Tim, glad you're listening. It did point out, we learned how to behave with the tech, but that we didn't solve that in the glass hole days, right? We started to. So that, interesting times, right? That we knew that the wearable technology, no one's going to give up on that. So, and then you layer in AR and VR. I'm sure that there was at least an augmented reality component to the glasses. I think by default there is. But there's other stuff to consider. So
as a consumer, the appeal is extraordinary. Again, without my researcher hat on, which I think is also extraordinary for just that shop along concept. That alone, I think would justify the cost of every researcher having them. Give them to a consumer and say, please go pick out your diapers and watch how they scan the shelf and where their eyes are going. And I feel like every
the incentive.
Oh, come on. Exactly. Come on. So that alone, but then as a consumer, I think about, we were talking a lot about North America recently and the venue and how people were navigating the venue.
Sure.
My glasses could have the floor plan and I could be like, do I turn left or right? And it will tell me. Like the use cases for navigation are extraordinary, right? What am I looking at? Like if I'm, if I'm at a kiosk for a brand, tell me more about this company. Say somebody's not there. Say somebody who has a kiosk went to a talk and they're not at their kiosk. I could say to my glasses, tell me more about this company, and it could tell them. I could scan QR codes with my eyes. I start to flip out a little bit at the use cases once I start to think about them as a person. And I think that's where I am with this, is me as a human being. I'm suddenly seeing it based on the demo. And that's one of the things she said is when you give these glasses to people, everybody wants them, but it's just, you have to get them in people's hands because most people are a little, anyway.
But I'll bring up one here. It's one, just to plain devil's advocate, agree with everything that you said. But as a parent, Do I
Yes.
want people recording pictures, of my children, my
Yeah.
daughters?
Yeah.
I don't think I do.
Yeah.
And so here's just this balance
Yeah.
of that we just have to measure and figure out. It doesn't mean that the tech is bad by any stretch of
Yeah.
imagination. No, there's huge positive implications.
Right.
But we
Right.
also let's recognize that there are privacy issues that are significant and we have to just factor in.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
And the
an
consent
obvious one
thing,
is with
really,
kids.
how do you consent to being a part of this world that somebody else is in? How
Right.
do you consent to that? You can't.
Yeah. Right.
So interesting.
There were cases that when during the glass hole days where people they banned them in restaurants. There
Yeah.
were places where they said no, you cannot, and it was obvious what it was because it was so distinctive looking. But
Yeah. These are not. I mean, these are anyway.
yeah,
They're. Yeah. I'm telling you, one of these days I'm going to have them on, and you're going to be like, "Oh, she did it." It is not going to take me much. It's going to happen.
I hear you. I mean, I was one early with to get glass. So for me the last component of that is the biggest barrier for me was I hate contacts.
Mm.
So as long as they can offer a prescription glasses version
Yeah.
that allows me to maintain my wearing regular glasses.
Apparently they can.
That was Google had just gotten there where you could do that before they decided to it's too early. But
yeah.
Oh, fair enough, Tim.
Tim just shared on YouTube for everyone listening on LinkedIn. Tim just shared on YouTube. I know who's running the Sunglass Hut this afternoon. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's not going to be this afternoon, that's for sure, but maybe tomorrow. So anyway.
Well, let's talk about the other big.
Let's talk about the other cool shopping.
Yeah,
things.
I mean, there is other cool stuff, right? Perplexity and PayPal teaming up. Perplexity is one to watch. They have some ambitions.
Yeah. So Perplexity and PayPal teaming up for agentic commerce capabilities. That's the article that Carly will share. And there's another article I kind of looked up this morning because there was another talk at the Yale Insights On conference that I went to, and it was Teresa Yu. She was the VP brand and content at IBM, and she was saying that Visa is kind of has recently unveiled their plans for AI agents to do the shopping for you, right?
Yep.
So you can call on your agent to actually go and buy the thing. So I think that we are quickly getting to, and somebody else was talking about, kind of Google search and all that. Like we are quickly getting to agents shopping for us.
Yep, which we've talked about. Now, what does that mean for research?
Yeah.
Let me talk to the primary shopper in the home.
Right.
Well, that's my agent.
That's my agent, right? Exactly. So that's really interesting. And then how will you have that? Will you have that kind of same response to the products that you purchase if you're actually not the one making that decision, or where in a world where people are hand feeding you a few different options and you choose from a set of options rather than you doing the work to find the exact thing. I think that's really it, is the consideration set will be narrowed down at the very least by somebody else, by something else.
Yep.
That's
Brave new world.
Brave new world. So I don't know if I have that article, Carly, the other one, the one that talks about the Visa agent. I think I just slapped it in there without context. So anyway, so that's that. Yeah. The e-commerce applications. Think about it for grocery, Instacart. If we don't even, I had talked to my friend at Kroger about kind of Instacart and online shopping and all of that. But imagine if it's making the decisions for you. If you're like, you know what, I really just want to make tacos tonight, and it says, gotcha. Yep. And you don't even have to say, break it down for me.
I was in a conversation this week with a company that provides receipt scanning, identity resolution technology to many of these companies, and the things they were talking about, that how Instacart and DoorDash and those companies are thinking about leveraging their data in new ways. I can't go any deeper than that, but very, very interesting.
Cool.
And I guess for the next story, the Google DeepMind's AlphaEvolve which fundamentally, so this was it was a multiplication algorithm that decreased computing costs. But the other big piece of AlphaEvolve is it builds technology. It self-codes.
Yeah.
So the barrier to entry on developing these agentic solutions and anything that is AI based, it just keeps coming down across the board. Google's decreasing computing costs and time while also creating technology that you just described. Here's what I want it to do. And it programs it. I was using Perplexity earlier this week, and first time I keep telling them, but I just noticed it. I was doing some analysis on grit data, and I noticed it pulling in Python code, and saying, "Oh, I need to do this," and it was pulling in Python code to do the analysis in real time without me prompting. I just said, "Here's what I want," and it was figuring out what it needed, and it's just that's the world that we are in now.
I know. It's cool. All of these advancements I think are great. And this one, I think, you talk about the costs, cutting computing costs. I think many of us have heard that the cost of AI is significant, when it comes to, kind of how much energy it uses and is burning through, and how detrimental that is on a big scale, even though we aren't going to stop ourselves from using it anytime soon, because we're like, but wait, all of these applications. So anything that we can do to kind of cut computer costs and the cost of usage, I think is going to serve us well in the long run, and feed the machine of wanting us to improve the AI so that we are realizing some of the benefits from using the AI at the same time, instead of, the unnerving think about how much it is costing, not just literally financially, but also costing us in terms of the global footprint. So interesting times.
It was interesting watching news this week of all the news in the Middle East and the major investments of Middle Eastern oil producers in AI. And the flip side of that was they want to power it, right? So it was just, to your point, there's just lots of big things happening, right? It has nothing to do with judging whether that's good or bad. The world is being reconfigured for an AI-based economy, including the issues around energy production and computing costs, and there are trillions of dollars, literally.
It's really easy for us to stay focused on, and we'll talk about we have a lot of product launches to cover in the the last few minutes, and we'll get to them, and we couldn't even get to all of them, but we'll cover the ones that we can. And it's interesting to talk about just how we're using them and forget about the big meta conversation that's happening in our world. I don't know. So interesting. So
utterly transformative. So let's talk about the specific.
Let's go back to these.
The application layer.
Oh my God. And it's not a surprise, like I said at the beginning of the show, that we're seeing all of these AI product launches, right? And I think that one of the, I think I put in my LinkedIn quote, like one of the quotes for this event really is, it's not about you having an AI feature. It's about how you're using this AI feature for the good of your customers. So let's not just be excited that we have them. Let's be excited about what it's actually doing, because we're way past the yay, we have one too. But anyway, Redpoint Global, I don't know them, but I don't either. So Redpoint Global unveiling a data readiness hub. So speaking of CX, right? Solving pertinent issues in customer data quality for enterprise AI and CX use. So here's another player in the CX space. And they're doing what they need to do, with their AI platform to clean up some data quality issues. So certainly hats off to everybody who's cleaning up data quality right now.
Absolutely foundational, right? Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. So pretty cool. All right. What about Data Axle? Do you know them too? Like a lot of players are showing up.
No, and we just own that, guys. There are so many new companies emerging that we're all kind of going, oh, who's that? And trying to get up to speed. Here's another example. Data Axle, their Profile Fuse. That this connects business consumer identities. So this goes into kind of what we were talking about earlier with Meta, right? Of connecting data to. So you've got your glass on. Oh, that's Lenny. It's going to be companies like Data Axle and others that are synthesizing that to feed into these applications for identity resolution. So it's the next generation of the kind of the third party data providers that we all kind of hate, in many ways, because they're synthesizing all of your information. Now going into that to drive applications like this.
Pretty cool. So Content Square launches something called Sense, which is an AI agent that acts like a digital analyst. So, let's just call it what it is. We've been, it seems like very straightforward to be able to say like, yes, let's have AI analyze, but this is more than that, right? So this is their language, kind of accelerating insights, but optimizing user experience decisions. So now we're bringing in agents, or this platform is giving us an example of bringing in agents to not only look at the data, but then literally get right to the decision making that has to happen. So whether you know them or not, take a look at it, see what Sense is all about, because it's planning and acting.
Yes.
On some behalf. Keyword.
A couple of weeks ago, I think it was Waxy that I saw. That's right. It's to build websites. Anyway, point was they're incorporating that type of technology to actually customize the website on the fly. Based on the individual user, which is just kind of a mind-boggling concept to think about. I mean, obviously there's got to be some framework, but that's where we get into the practical applications of personalization of not just recommendations, but even overall experience. So interesting stuff. Upscale AI debuts with a $5.5 million funding round, seed fund. Or Upscale Studio, the first AI native platform for creating and optimizing performance TV ads on streaming platforms. So think about everything done with ad testing, right? This is coming out of the gate. Testing.
Brand new company out of the gate.
To do that.
$5.5 million. Like, I mean, that's what struck me about this one is it's like, okay, like there are entrepreneurial minds out there who are like, I see an opportunity. I've now got the tool. Let's go.
And you build it in a weekend. I mean, that's the thing.
Like, sorry to anybody who's working like, let's build AI into what we're already doing, because it's like these guys are just going to run into your competitive set at this moment.
That they are, anyway. And that's it doesn't call that out, but I would bet 5.5 million of their money that's based on some level of synthetic sample, right? There's some normative, benchmarking data, some personas that are baked into that real-time recommendation optimization of digital ads. I mean, it's not even A/B, it's like advanced A/B testing.
Because if you're creating it also, you're creating and testing all at the same time, measuring all at the same time.
Yep. All baked in. All right, we two more.
Two more. Okay, Panoply. Introducing the Panaverse.
The Panaverse. I love that. Welcome to the Panaverse.
Data repositories, right? So it's all about powering enterprise decision making by structuring fragmented research data. So I don't know if this one is like I was kind of taking this one and I'm like, this doesn't seem that new and novel, but then when you kind of dig into it, it's like, guess what's powering this new change, right? So there's the AI component, which is what makes this different.
It is. I actually have I'm going to soapbox just for a second because I have a theory. Well, a few seconds. That I've been really became apparent to me that the differentiate. Sorry guys, if you're in the SaaS business, I think software is dead. That was always a moat, right? What drives things going forward is client retention. And what drives client retention, there's two components to that, but one of it is going to be your data is already there. So then there's like an inertia component, right? Well, my data's already there. I don't want to mess with it. And there's lots of companies in our space that are chasing that idea of it's optimizing the user experience with existing data so they do not churn, because the software itself is meaningless almost now.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Anybody can clone the capabilities.
Yeah.
It's about leveraging the data. So a new company like Panoply coming out, leaning directly into that of like, we're sure we have these data collection capabilities, but that's not the point. The point is we have the Panoverse, where
Yeah.
you customize and leverage your data in real time
Yeah.
to fuel the research process. And that
Yeah.
is, that's where we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I do feel like I feel like the players that had like their knowledge management systems or their research hubs, like they didn't really get a fair chance, because I feel like the benefit of all of that, it was like so many people were kind of slow to get to the benefit of those knowledge hubs, and now all of a sudden it's like kazam, and everyone's like, oh, got to get into those knowledge hubs. So
Right. Right.
I feel a little bit like, sorry guys, like you were there, we saw you first, we get it, but
some of them are actually doing pretty. They're pivoting well with that idea of being purpose built, right? Except that is still that my experience using the off the shelf AI solutions. Sure, they can do some of those things, but they miss a lot of context and nuance that is specific to our category and the types of business issues that we want. So it's very general, and that's great, but they don't unlock. The off-the-shelf solutions don't unlock the type of value that, let's say, a knowledge management system could do. They may get there, but so there is still niche expertise in that kind of app layer is still important, and I think those companies still have real opportunities to engage from that standpoint.
Pressure's on for them to lean into the design thinking and that agility to make some changes and some tweaks to get there.
Absolutely,
because it's going to happen. It's sort of like oh my gosh. What's the name of the platform that you had shared with all of us that was doing like kind of marketing options and content options? Sparky, right.
Sparky.ai. Shout out to Sparky. Yep.
Right. Shout out to Sparky. So it's sort of like what Sparky's doing is like, no, give me a use case. Like I'm just the right person to kind of to take your feedback and build it. So I do think that some of that's going to happen with these new players. Is they're going to say, give me your use case, because I have not just the technical ability, but the thinking and that agile mindset to make it happen for your use case. And then guess what? Then they're going to be more appropriate for more people, because
100%. I will give an earned media shout out real quick to Rick Kelly at Fuel Cycle. They publicly announced their new agentic solution a few weeks ago, and we covered that.
Shared,
but Rick gave me a demo. I asked him for a demo. Oh shit, right? I mean, it reminded me of Sparky, of that idea. To your point, so here's the first time I've seen that in the research context of, here's my business issue. That's what you start with. Here's my business issue, and the agent does almost everything else. And that is. Many other companies are doing that, so guys, don't get offended. Well, we're doing that too, Lenny. I hadn't seen your demo. I saw the Fuel Cycle demo, and that whole process, because it's customized, right? The prompts underneath it are customized for the research process, and that's where we are. All right, do we want to end with our friends at Morning Consult?
Morning Consult, because this is cool, right? So Morning Consult launched Morning Consult AI. It's now in open beta, offering global, this is the marketing talk, right? Global customer insights through a real-time AI chat tool built on 30,000 daily interviews across 40 plus countries. So anyway, so there you go. So they're putting it out there. They're synthetic in that. What else is going on in that one?
I don't know the details. I will say it was interesting. Morning Consult is one of those companies who has never actively engaged in the research space, but they had a very large presence at IAX.
And they sponsored the Yale Insights On conference. So they were sponsored. Last year it was just Susie. This year it was Susie, BCG, and Morning Consult. So I was like, oh, I see you. I see you.
Leaning in. They're leaning in. And they own their. So I believe they do some custom work, but the bulk of their business is, their own proprietary tracking studies. And that's what they're leveraging. So the data is their asset. And hint, panel companies. That's so they're leveraging that in a new way, as they should. So it's a very large, extensive database that, if that's feeding models to explore building synthetic, exploring, hypothesis testing, all types of stuff. That's fantastic. More companies. Not everybody has syndicated products, of course, but Nielsen, Circana. I mean, there's lots of folks out there that do, and they're moving in similar directions on leveraging that data asset in whole new ways. And is that going to minimize it? So I don't know if that minimizes custom research. I think it changes the process of custom research. I think you go here first and you explore, and then you go forth and you test. Unless you're, upscale and you just test automatically and built in. But it's a different way to rethink the workflow, to rethink the value of data, to rethink the insights function from a process standpoint, right? That's really where I think these implications are. On cost, speed, impact, but also just function.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Well, that's where we're wrapping. It's 36 minutes.
That's it. All right.
That's all we're gonna do. I mean, keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Absolutely.
We'll keep doing our best to tell the world about them. That's all I can say.
We will. So thank you. And if you're on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button.
Like and subscribe.
And if share this, look for the newsletter that Carly does such a masterful job of summarizing all of these and early next week.
Fantastic. And we'll see you in a week.
Everybody have a great weekend.
All right. You too, by the way, Lenny. You have a good weekend.
Thank you, Karen. You too.
I will. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.